incentive conflicts in supply chains. Consider an example supply chain of sunglasses. We have a producer of sunglasses called Zamatia. They produce sunglasses at a cost of $35 per unit and they sell them for $75 per unit to Ambra Visage. And now Ambra Visage is a retailer who sells sunglasses for $115 and liquidates them for $25 per unit. It's a fashion product, and demand is normally distributed with 250 units in a season and average standard deviation. So 250 on average and standard deviation 125. So of course, this is where news vendor model applies. So who's going to decide the order quantity? It's the retailer. Retailer will decide how much to order from Zamatia. So of course, retailer will try to use the news vendor model, calculate the underage cost, right, which is the difference between price 115 and the cost at which UV buys from Zamatia 75. So that will be $40 cost of underage. Overage will be the cost $75 minus salvage value 25, so it will be 50, and critical ratio is accordingly a little bit less than half, right? We are a bit afraid of overage more than of underage, so the quantity that is determined by the news vendor model is a little bit less than the expected demand, 250, and the UV can calculate expected profit, which is of course maximum that UV can obtain by adjusting order quantity. Now notice that this is the profit of UV, but also Zamatia makes some profit, and their profit is whatever is ordered here by UV is of course ordered from Zamatia. So Zamatia sells 234 sunglasses for sure. There is no uncertainty here, right? Because they sell to UV, and of course they get $75 for selling them, while their cost is 35, so they get $40 for each unit, and their profit is 9,360. So if we add the profits of UV and Zamatia, we're going to obtain the total profit of $14,940. But the interesting observation we can make is, what if Zamatia and UV were the same company? Or what if we could manage them as if they are one company in an integrated fashion? Then we could apply the news vendor model again, but to the whole supply chain. And what is the whole supply chain? What is the difference? Well, the difference is that for the whole supply chain, the cost is $35. It is the true cost to produce those sunglasses, right? The 75 is only the cost at which the Zamatia and UV settle, right? When they exchange the quantity, right, that is ordered by UV from Zamatia. But in fact, the true cost of sunglasses is $35. The true selling price is 115, and the true salvage value is 25. So we can calculate for the integrated supply chain the cost of underages selling price minus production cost, $80. The overage is production cost minus salvage value, just $10. So this is much lower and this is much higher. And now critical ratio is much larger, much more than 0.5, and the appropriately order quantity chosen by the news vendor model will be much larger than the mean. And notice now the total profit of the supply chain is much more, it's almost $3,000 more than the profit that those two companies obtained separately when UV chose the quantity according to their profit maximization. So why did supply chain in this example of sunglasses delivery, why did it perform worse than it could, right? UV orders too few units, if you think about this, 234, when optimal quantity for the whole supply chain is 404, right? Of course, the UV pays Zamatia $75 per unit, so UV acts appropriately as if the cost of sunglasses is $75, right? It is appropriate for them. For them, it really is $75. UV doesn't care if the real production cost is 75 or 25 or even $0, right? They don't care. They don't really experience that cost. They only know the cost, $75, right? UV makes $40 of underage, right? So this is the lost opportunity on the sale or profit on the sale and loses $50 when they have left over. So UV is prudent to order less than the average demand, right? In this case, less than the optimal quantity, much less than the optimal quantity for the whole supply chain. So you see the reason for suboptimal supply chain performance is due to what we call double marginalization. It's because each firm makes decisions based on their own margin, their own profit, right? The UV is maximizing its own profit. It's not maximizing the whole supply chain's profit. Hence, even if every firm in the supply chain maximizes its own expected profit, the total profit earned in the whole supply chain might be less than optimal. So this was just an example that shows you, right, that it actually can be the case. You might be tempted to think that it's just a question of reducing the wholesale price that Zamatia offers to UV, right? The $75. So here we have an evaluation again, right? The summary of what we did when we had the wholesale price, $75, critical ratio was this was the quantity, UV's maximum profit that they, right, because they optimized, and then this resulting profit of Zamatia and total profit. And notice if, for example, if Zamatia reduces the the wholesale price to $65, yes, there is some benefit, right? The quantity is increased, critical ratio higher, quantity is increased. UV is very happy actually, but notice it's not good for Zamatia because now Zamatia's profit has decreased by over $1,000. Yes, total profit of the supply chain has increased, right? Which is good. But of course, Zamatia wouldn't be like that because they still lost, right? They have a higher quantity ordered, but in fact, they make less money, less profit. So that's not good for Zamatia. Zamatia went to an extreme and sold the sunglasses at the wholesale price of $35, which is their production cost, right? Then UV would in fact order 404, but all the profit would go to UV in this case, and nothing would go to Zamatia. So Zamatia shouldn't go for this wholesale price because they would basically lose all the profit that they would make, right? And on the other hand, notice Zamatia would like to increase the wholesale price. And if they do, indeed, they will increase their expected profit. Their profit will be $9,800. However, that actually comes at the cost of the total supply chain profit because now UV's expected profit is much lower, and UV might actually be may have much less incentive to buy sunglasses from Zamatia because now they make so little profit compared to this situation. But what I want you to see is that Zamatia actually has an incentive to increase the wholesale price rather than decrease, because that is going to increase Zamatia's profit. However, in fact, it will hurt the UV's profit so much that the total profit will actually be reduced, right? So the conclusion here is varying the wholesale price is not a good idea for Zamatia. If they reduce it, they actually lower their own profit. But if they increase it, they increase their own profit, but the whole supply chain profit is lower, right? And notice this is a tension in the supply chain because now Zamatia wants to increase its own profit, but that comes at the reduction of another stage profit. Another stage in the supply chain has lower profit when Zamatia is increasing its profit. And many such situations are actually what we call zero-sum games, right? I get $100 more and you get $100 less. But here it's actually worse because when Zamatia is increasing its profit, right, by going from $75 wholesale price to $85, they increase their profit by something like right, $440, but UV's profit is reduced by much more than this, by about $2,000, and so the net result is not a zero-sum game. It actually by increasing its profit, right, the total profit is reduced. Zamatia increases its profit, but the total profit is reduced, so it actually hurts the whole supply chain in general.